Good afternoon, Bournemouth fans, and welcome to this special recording today, which we're calling the Aftermath. It might sound a little bit dramatic to be recording a special show based on what we witnessed last night, but I don't know about you, I'm still feeling really disheartened after what we witnessed last night, after that crap 2-1 defeat to Cardiff City. To me, it's clear that the problems that we've got are not just on the pitch. Yes, the players don't often look like they've got the heart and the desire to warrant the accolade of wearing a red and black shirt, but maybe there's a problem that they themselves cannot control. Maybe they're equally disheartened at the lack of direction that there seems to be at the club. Let's face it, what has happened at the club over the past 2-3 weeks is totally weird. No press release can really gloss over the fact that they've hired someone who they will badge as the best candidate, but they'll only give him 15 games. 1 week before that, the media were saying that David Wagner pretty much had the job. Part of me wonders whether the players thought that too, because it must be disheartening to be linked with one man and then be left with another. I'm sure the team, look, they've got nothing against Woodgate, but what perhaps is showing is that the players are just not happy with what's going on, and that's being echoed through their performances. Do they have faith? Do they want to be there? This is up for discussion over the next 30, 35 minutes or so with the back of the net panel. And that is Neil Dawson. We've also got Jeff Hayward here and Tom Jordan. Neil, start with you. Are you over it last night? Because I'm still not.
Well, the sad thing is, I was over it probably halfway through the match, because I know we all have different levels of emotion attached to football clubs, but I've kind of mentally washed my hands of this lot because we've been here before. It just reminds me so much of the Paul Groves era, where we had like a bloated squad that was probably too good for that league, and every week they turned out with no formation, no spirit, no cohesion. And you do get to the stage where we've all got other things in our life, haven't we, where I kind of just think, well, if they can't be asked for me, I can't be asked for them. So I'm a fan, and were we in the stadium, I'd still be going every week, because I've never ever given up on the team. But emotionally, I've become less invested with teams that aren't invested in what they're doing.
Yeah, Jeff, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I have a sense of resignation about this season, not about the club. I mean, we all support the club because, for various reasons, that's the emotional attachment. This group of players, the hierarchy at the club, less so. And I think what we're all feeling is we all want the club to do well. We all want them to perform well, because it makes us feel good when we win, unbelievably, if you can remember that. And when you see performances like last night, you've just got to detach yourself from it and think, you know what, let's regroup and see what next season holds.
Yeah, Tom, do you agree with that?
Yeah, echo what the guy said. I feel a disconnection to kind of this group, this current team, which is hard. But yeah, you want to be proud of the team you're watching, and that's very difficult to do at the moment. And as Jeff said, we're Bournemouth fans, and that ain't going to change. You know what I mean? You don't change your football club, and I'll always support them. But yeah, at the moment there feels a real disconnect. I feel I go into games. As much as it was awful, was I that surprised? I wasn't surprised. I really wasn't surprised with the level of performance, the lack of organisation, the lack of any sort of game plan. It really didn't surprise me. It feels like it's been going on for a long time now. So we were all fearful when Eddie left, and it's just like I thought it might be.
So let's open up the discussion then. Obviously, there's multiple layers within a football club. You've got the players, you've got the manager, and then it goes above that. Well, Neil, where's the issue, do you think?
Well, the issue starts. So you've got symptoms and causes in life, haven't you? So we're witnessing and discussing a lot of symptoms, but what you really got to do is think, what is the cause? So without going over old ground, and I've said it before, I don't want to sound like a stuck record. Eddie Howe went into a week's worth of discussions wanting to stay at the club, came out and he wasn't there. So we don't know what happened, but you don't discuss things for a week when one party isn't interested. So he clearly was interested. You then had the rushed appointment of Jason Tindall, a man who I didn't think was suitable for the job, but was, I'm sure, a decent bloke who was a good number 2, and with no other recruitment process that happened. You then sacked Jason Tindall 3 days after he's been allowed to bring in 3 players, 2 of which he'd never even got onto the pitch, and then go through the most horrendously PR-led recruitment campaign with all sorts of names being wung around, which is really unprofessional. You go chasing after golden promises of people that you were probably never going to get, and then you appoint a guy that you already had, having already said you haven't got internal, who had a dreadful record in his previous year as attempted being a manager, albeit he's a decent bloke. So, as we need to keep pointing out, because this is not an anti-Woodgate thing. So clearly that mismanagement of the club is just absolutely horrendous, and there's only 2 people that are responsible for that in my eyes: Neil Blake and the head of recruitment, Richard Hughes, who should have been foreseeing that one day Eddie would go.
Neil, you were saying on one of the previous shows, you nodded your head to one of the statements I made about, have you ever been the second choice for a job yet still got the job anyway? And you nodded and agreed, and I didn't actually follow that point up. Now, with Woodgate, I don't know where down the chain he was, maybe even 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th choice preference. I just wonder how he feels about that. And obviously he's got a career that he wants to be in football, and this is a great opportunity to him, but surely that translates back to the players as well, and they must be thinking, well, we had all these names, but we've got the guy that we've got. How would they handle that mentally?
Well, and this is it. This is what I mean about handling PR badly, and Jeff's a bigger expert on PR than the rest of us put together, so I'm sure he'll have an opinion on it. But Jonathan Woodgate was never given a chance, because Jonathan Woodgate, it was clear to all of us, was not going to get the job when he arrived. And in every interview he gave, he talked about the fact that he was just, I'm not here to talk about it, I'm here for the next game. A lot of caretakers that get given the job will come out and openly say, I'll put my CV in, I want the job, and it's clear that they're there. It was always clear to all of us that Jonathan Woodgate was not the club's first choice, and it was clear to him. And we touted all the names around. If we were going to give him the job, that was not the way to go about it. But of course, we were never going to give him the job. We just messed up the process with everyone else.
Jeff, so PR handling not the greatest in this circumstance.
I think if I'd been responsible for what's gone on, I'd be fired. And I'm not blaming it all on the communications team, because they're going to be being given stories, messages to get out there by hierarchy in the club. And I think what's gone wrong has been the whole managing of expectations amongst the fans. PR is all about, believe it or not, telling the truth. If you're authentic, people will go along with it. And the whole kind of business of going from talking up Wagner, talking up Henry, talking up the external candidates, and then doing something different. It's like Dominic Cummings going for an eye test at Barnard Castle. Doesn't ring true. And when you've got that situation, you lose the support of the fans, the customers, but you also lose the support of people internally, because they think, what's going on? Makes no sense, whatever they might say. And I thought what was really interesting, if we talk about PR and communications last night, if you watch the interviews with Woodgate and with Steve Cook, clearly there are massive issues, because Woodgate is effectively saying, I'm telling the players to do one thing and they're not doing it. Steve Cook is saying, been here so many times, I can't basically put any more excuses out there for my teammates, because they just do their own thing anyway. So it's totally dysfunctional, and that's not the message going out on. That's the message going out on the club's channel. It's not just media hearsay. That's what they're putting out. So, it's a shit show.
Yeah, it is. And if you're a player, Tom, and you see this indecisiveness from above, what are your thoughts? Do you want to be staying at the club, or do you want to fight for the badge? Because it seems that the latter is not happening, and maybe that's just the resignation of, whilst certain things are in place, then things aren't going to change.
Yeah, it feels a combination of a lot of things, doesn't it? And yeah, I mean, it can't be good for the players. And sadly, I think we've got a couple of players at the moment that we can be proud of, and that's probably Asmir Begovic and Steve Cook. And I believe the pair of them are out of contract at the end of the season. I don't know why they would want to stay. I don't see why they would want to stay, and I wouldn't blame them for leaving. And yeah, that's a real concern as well. But yeah, I mean, like Jeff said as well, the press conferences after the interviews after the game, even from a footballing point of view, I think one of the first things Woodgate said was about get it wide, get balls in the box. We need to get it wide. We need to get balls. He played a system with no width. Yeah. So I mean, it baffled me. He's talking about getting the ball wide. I thought, but we didn't have a winger. Like, do you know what I mean? It just seems really strange. But as we've said, it's nothing against Woodgate as a man. I don't know the guy. And I'm sure he's a decent bloke. But in terms of what you said earlier about him taking the job, he can't believe it, because he probably thought he's had one managerial experience that ultimately failed, and he's just suddenly got a job with a team that are trying to get promoted. He must be thinking, God, how have I managed this? So, as much as he probably, he's aware he wouldn't have been first choice, I'm sure he's happy to take it on. But yeah, he's going to start seeing quickly what this group have been like all season, really. And yeah, he's going to struggle to get in them playoffs, I think.
If you were a player, why would you want to stay at a club you don't even know who the manager's going to be next season, Neil? How can players even commit when they haven't got a clue what's going on?
Yeah, that was always the bit that concerned me with a 3-month contract, because you've seen it even with brilliant managers like Alex Ferguson, players switching off when they know that they're leaving at the end of the season, which is why he had to come out and and then arrange to stay longer. And then when he did go the final time, he went suddenly, because players are just, it's basic human psychology. If you know that your boss isn't around in 3 months' time, no matter what job you do, you kind of think, well, I've got a slight easy ride. I don't have to hit the absolute 100% level that I have to, because he's not going to be here. I mean, Tom's point about Asmir Begovic, we don't want him to stay because we can't afford him. So we will be swapping him out and bringing in a goalkeeper who's on 10 grand a week, not one that's on 60. So. And Asmir Begovic will know that. So, credit to him that he's still putting it in. Steve Cook's the kind of player that if he played for his pub team would throw himself all over the pitch and on the line. But yeah, no, they will be feeling, I imagine, constantly in a period of transition, because they know that they're going to have someone walking through the door in August, barring a miracle of turnaround in performances under Woodgate, and they're going to be going through it all over again, and all of that stuff players worry about will he like me, will he pick me? And then also knowing that half their teammates won't be there. I mean, you couldn't paint a more gloomy picture, but that you can see it every time they step onto the pitch.
I'd also just add that I think Junior's really stepping up.
Yeah,
that's fair point. I think he was the standout player for them last night, and he's shown that he cares.
Are we entitled, Jeff?
Yeah, I think the evidence is on the pitch. You can tell that the way they're playing, that a lot of them don't really want to play. I think a lot of them probably want out at the end of the season, and they're probably waiting for that. I don't think there's any appetite, collective or actually individually, for them to want to play in the Premier League with Bournemouth next season. And I would also say, Neil was talking about, it's been since the summer. Actually, I think it probably goes back beyond that, Neil. I think probably last season we saw a lot of this. Mm-hmm. There was a toxic sort of vibe around certain things going around the club, and I think that maybe that started with a group of players. Maybe there was some other stuff internally. They're just not a group of players who gel well together. And Eddie tried, couldn't get consistent results out of them. Same's happening again.
There'll be a fraction of supporters, Tom, that will be telling us to almost kind of wind our necks back in. The fact that we're 7th in the league in our 6th season in the Championship ever. Yes, we're playing poorly, but are we being over the top with our reactions? Are we being entitled?
No, I don't think so, because you look at the players that we have in our squad. It's 100% in the top couple of squads, isn't it, on paper? So yeah, I don't think. Don't get me wrong. As a football club, we're not a massive football club, but we've got Premier League players in that squad. So we should be seeing better performances. But yes, it's been going on for a long time. I think But yeah, if I always feared about Eddie kind of being that glue, and when he went, if we ever need more evidence, you know what I mean? It feels like a right mess at the moment, from top to bottom, and yeah, it's difficult because I've been quite vocal about, you know, putting it on the players, even when Jason was there. Not saying he was doing a good job, but I was very much like, whatever manager, I'm not sure about these players. But what I will say is to them players, we set up last night, and we have done a lot in the past this season, with a team where we had Sam Surridge up front and Junior Stanislas in around him, and then 6 defensive-minded players behind him or whatever. Do you know what I mean? We set up with such a conservative defensive approach, and with these group of players, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. It's almost like both Jason and Jonathan both have gone out there kind of like, well, we've got the players, so if we play really cautiously, we'll just have a little bit too much. And it seems quite baffling with the squad we got available. We set up to kind of match Cardiff or match QPR, so that doesn't instill you with confidence going into a game. Do you know what I mean? Before a ball's been kicked, so that frustrates me. But yeah, Jeff made a good point about Junior. I think he's stepping up. I mean, we saw the thing earlier in the season when he had a bit of a go at Sam Surridge, and I remember at the time thinking, you know, yeah, it's not ideal, but it shows he does care. And I think him, Steve Cook, and Begovic kind of are the only ones that can have their heads held high at the moment. But yeah, a lot of strange things. Jack Wilshere and Ben Pearson didn't get off the bench last night. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. We've brought Ben Pearson in, done well, barely seen him since, and Jack Wilshere's brought in for that creativity. We're not creating anything, but he just sat on the bench all game. It was very, very strange.
Seems to me that there's just a lack of leadership all over. I think on the pitch, it doesn't seem to be any from the dugout. There seems to be minimal, and then just above that, talking even board level, there just seems to be nothing there. And for all the people that are clamouring, they would love Eddie back. As good as it would be, I wouldn't want that to happen because he deserves better. He deserves to be a manager that doesn't have to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders and to, you know, carry the board and to carry certain personnel. And they didn't really have to do anything for it. But now they're getting found out now that he's not there, and he papered over the cracks. So as much as I would love it selfishly to have him back and have Bournemouth playing well and potentially get into the Premier League, for the club as a whole, it would be healthier if he didn't come back, Neil, surely?
Maybe not now. So I've always thought he'll be back here. I would bet my mortgage that Eddie Howe will manage this football club again. But I think he would probably want things to change at the top before he came back. I think that week where he went into negotiations. It was an interesting point, just jumping back, that Tom made about Pearson and Wilshere, because of course they weren't signed by Jonathan Woodgate. So this is the whole, if you want the whole mismanagement thing, if you are going to move a manager on, you move them on just before a transfer window. That's, if you had a CEO that knew what they were doing, that's what they would have done. If they decided that Jason wasn't the guy, then you decide December the 30th. You give him his ticket. Jonathan Woodgate has 2 weeks to then look at this squad and sign the players he needs to deliver what he wants to do in the second half of the season. To do it at the end of the transfer window with a whole heap of players that, you know, we could all see what we needed, and they weren't two central midfielders. So because Jonathan Woodgate's now got these players that he never signed, so he might not. I don't think he'd have gone for Jack Wilshere. I don't think Jack Wilshere's a Jonathan Woodgate type player. So he's now stuck. He's now stuck with him, and now Jack Wilshere's on the bench. So going back to Eddie Howe, the time to have brought him in would have been before the transfer window if you were going to do it. I don't think he'll come back with the current people in charge, but I do think he will. His affinity for the club is that strong. He will come back at some point, and we've just got to hope that we survive this financially, because we've got to do a massive shedding of players to make sure we survive this trip down out of the Premier League and we don't become another Blackpool.
But when you say him coming back, do you think it's going to be sort of 15 years' time or 20 years' time where he's been on the managerial merry-go-round, he's been around a number of clubs, and he's almost like your Harry Redknapp's? Will he still be relevant at that point in time? Or know, because we're not going to get him in his prime again, are we?
Well, I think managers don't really have a prime. So as long as they adapt, as long as they adapt, there's some being some brilliant managers in their 50s and 60s, as long as they keep up with trends and they don't do what some managers have done. But I think he will he's so intelligent. I'm sure he will adapt. And a lot of this depends on where his career goes. So if his next move catapults him into greatness, we might not see him for a long, long time. But if he goes to, say, a Palace, and those are the sort of clubs where they have unreasonable expectations, and if he, 2 years, and if he doesn't get them in the top half, they'll think, well, let's try someone else. Then he's back on the market again, isn't he? But if he goes to Palace, gets them top 6, then gets a big job or an England job, then it will be a long time. But I still just think we are Eddie's natural home. I don't think he enjoyed Burnley. It'd be really interesting to see how he does get on somewhere else.
Yeah. So, Jeff, how the hell do we salvage this season? How do we do it?
I'm inclined to give up on going for the promotion or the playoffs or anything. Sounds terribly defeatist, but I think give some of the younger players a chance. We know that a lot of this squad don't want to be here, so fine. Let's give Zamora a chance at left back. Let's give Kenny a chance in midfield. Let's give Roro a flipping chance. What's he thinking? He's come on loan here. He's played 2 games, 3 games, if that, and.
Well, the thing is, we might be giving up by doing that, but maybe we won't be. Maybe that's actually just what we need in order to actually get some kind of promotion push.
Well, maybe it is, just a bit of high risk. Even Jadon Anthony, I'd be inclined to give him a start. We know that we've got some good young players. Let's start blooding them now, because actually, do you know what? It might get taken out of our hands. We lose to Watford. We've got a couple of other home games coming up, and I can't see us scoring more than 1 goal in any of those. So we may be looking at a mid-table finish anyway very soon, in which case you've got nothing to lose, have you, by playing the youngsters and actually getting a bit of fizz and energy and excitement back into that team, which we haven't got. And you can move the deck chairs on the Titanic, but you're still going to sink, and that's what we've been doing for the last however many games.
What do you want to be seeing from Saturday's game against Watford, Tom? I mean, obviously, some kind of return from it, 1 point, 3 points. But what were the core aspects that were missing yesterday from that performance against Cardiff that you'd like to see return on Saturday?
I mean, there wasn't a lot that wasn't wrong for a long period, and like Jeff said, I've looked at the fixtures and they're not nice. Do you know what I mean? We've been losing to teams that I think are quite average. We've got some teams with better quality players coming up. I remember kind of one of the previous podcasts when a few of us were talking about the Barnsley manager and how he's good, and I got a bit of stick online saying, "Oh, why would you want the Barnsley manager? They're 1 point behind us," and he's done an unbelievable job. And I think even when we beat them really comfortably, that you could see they're a good, young, hungry team. But I fear for the weekend, because I mentioned on the free-for-all last night that I think we're playing teams, we're playing poorly and we're losing, but we're not getting battered. I feel that Watford have got the players to give us a bit of a hiding if they're on it, and I fear for that. But I would chuck a few of the younger players in. I mean, regardless of whether, people like Carter Vickers, who's obviously been doing okay since he's come in, to be fair to him, and Riquelme, regardless if they think they'll be here next season, they're still gonna want to show something because of their parent club, and they're on loan, and Roro I would just chuck out. We haven't really seen him, and like I mentioned earlier, with the lack of width we seem to have had all season, Roro, get Roro and Jane Anthony out there, proper wingers, and see how we go. But I think we need Dom back. I know he looks like he's going to be back in training, so the sooner we get him back, the better. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because if you just look at the league table, you think it'll be mad to kind of be this kind of doom and gloom, because we're right in there. But it's the eye test. It's what we're seeing on the pitch. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting on the weekend because we're playing a good team. So see if they raise their levels or not. But I'm a bit fearful of a bit of a hiding, to be honest.
If we'd gone with in January, in a parallel universe, we'd appointed Mick McCarthy or Neil Warnock. They would have, and they'd not had the transfer window, same as Jonathan Woodgate. They would have agreed. They would have looked at our big bloated squad of bitter people that aren't getting football, and they'd have said, right, you 19 are going forward between now and May. You 10 we're really sorry. I've got to sort this situation out. You're not part of my picture. You can train with the development squad. They'd have then got the 19 they would have picked would probably have had someone in it like Jaden Anthony. They'd have picked the 19 that will go on a pitch and not bring baggage with them. They'd have shoved the other 10 off to the side, said, we'll deal with you in the summer. And they would have put that 19 and said that this is the formation we're going to play and this is how we're going to line up and this is what we're going to do week in, week out till May. It'll either work and we'll be heroes or it won't work and we'll all be out of the job. But that's what they would have done. What they wouldn't have tried to do is keep all of these players happy and then change the formation every week and then change the lineup. Because the problem when you're playing badly and you've got a massive squad is there's always someone you can turn to. You can always think the problem, that the solution to your problem is always the 4 or 5 players that are good that didn't play. And this is what we've done all year. So, that's what, and if we've got a hope, because I know you being you, Sam, you'll say at the end, what's the optimism, what's the hope? Is maybe Gary O'Neill and Joe Jordan will do that. Maybe they will say, Joe Jordan will have sat in the stand last week. He's experienced. Maybe he'll say, look, what we need to do is concentrate on a smaller group of players and a formation every week in, week out. Yeah. Let's hope that's what Joe Jordan spotted.
We said that, didn't we? Right, quite a few weeks ago now about the kind of that relies to kind of over-rotate because of how big the squad is. Because it's, when Jason was here, he was making like 6 changes to the next game because, like Neil said, you have. We said it so many times about the left-back situation, haven't we? The worse Rico plays, the better Kelly looks because they're not playing. So that's the problem with the size of the squad. And I think the system and things like that, we need to just get a regular system and just say, we're going to go with this. Moving forward, we'll go with this. Lose, win, draw, and see what happens. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we change the system, we change it at the weekend, and that's just not the way to go.
We do it every week. We sit on here and we're now decided that Pearson's the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll play twice, play badly, and we'll be saying it's got to be Wilshere. So we're as guilty of it as anyone. That's the problem when you've got too many options.
Well, has anyone been in a situation, right, where you've been in the workplace and morale is really low? Quite often it's switched up with a new manager being in place who brings a new energy. But can the group of players somehow generate their own morale under the existing structure that there is? Jeff?
I'm not entirely convinced that Cookie's got them responding to him as a captain. I mean, he seemed pretty desperate and at his wit's end in that interview last night. I think it's probably a lot more complicated than just a couple of wins. We had a couple of wins a couple of weeks ago, and it's all dissipated back to Jayton Tyndall the last days. I mean, we've last 10 games, we've won 2, drawn 2, lost 6. I mean, it's relegation form, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my God, it's not particularly good. It's not particularly good. We need to see changes and change as soon as possible. And, whether that'll happen on the pitch, Tom, we don't know. But I'd like to see players like Ben Pearson getting a start. Maybe Saturday will be the game for him. Yeah,
maybe. I agree with what Neil said when we were saying about the kind of transfer window and stuff like that. I remember saying to my old man when he said, do you reckon Jason will go? I said, well, he won't go now because we've gone into the transfer window. So that'd be mental because he's going to let him sign these players. So he's obviously not getting sacked. And then he got sacked. It seems crazy. You're giving a man money to go and sign players and then said he's not good enough before he's even used them. But so that I feel that Pearson might be more of a Woodgate player than like a Wilshere. So he chucked him in against Burnley, didn't he, away from home, and he played well. So yeah, I think I wouldn't surprise me to see Pearson in. He obviously withdrew Lewis Cook at half time. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Pearson in there maybe with Lerma. But yeah, I'd like to see a few of the younger players come in, bit of wit, things like that. But I don't know.
I think one other point that I'd just like to make is a lot of the things that have been happening. Football is a fast-changing business, so it could flip on a couple of results, right? It could. Unlikely, but it could. I think everything over the last, actually since Eddie left, has been very reactive from our board. It doesn't feel like we're in control of the situation. There doesn't seem to be an inner confidence in what we're doing and the way we do it, which we had under Eddie. And I think you can see that we go a couple of games where we put in decent performances. Woodgate starts tinkering and changing the system because of the opposition. And actually, if you're confident in yourself and the players you got, just go out there and play, because that's the way we play. Let them worry about us. That's what you do if you're a confident side. But I think that's throughout the club, the whole reactivity around the managerial situation. I mean, I read that TalkSport guys talking about we were waiting for Scott Parker. We're waiting for other things to happen, waiting for Scott Parker to get sacked. That's why we didn't make the decision. So we were going to bring him in as soon as he gets fired, is that really a way to run your club?
Yeah, these are the things that I heard as well. I was of the hearing things that they were almost hoping Brentford won the playoff final, so that at that point in time they could then pluck Scott Parker from Fulham. And given their turgid league form at the start of the season, they were hoping that he was going to be the next person to be released of his duties, but he's not, and he's doing really well. I think a manager like him would actually be a really good fit for our club, but it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Sorry, Tom.
Well, no, I was just going to say, just moving on from Jeff's point, there's no plan at the top, and there's no plan on the football pitch, and there's pure panic at the top, and there's pure panic on the football pitch. You know what I mean? It's from top to bottom. The players seem to not really have any organisation and plan, and nor do the people above them. So it's it just culminates into a massive mess at the moment. But yeah, I don't know why Scott Parker would. I don't know. I mean, I think they'll probably stay up, actually, looking at them at the moment.
Yeah,
but, no, it's a big mess at the moment. But like you say, a few results and it might look a bit better, but it's not looking likely at the moment. Let's say that. But
no, we're not a team that's losing games that they've dominated with a dodgy ref's decision or a dodgy penalty or something like that, where we're all coming away from it feeling really hard done by. It's a team. I mean, Willow, week in, week out, can't believe how hard teams are working against us. So that last night he was saying, look how hard Cardiff are working. They're not working. They're not. That's how modern football teams work. We play by slowing everything down and looking knackered if we have to hound and harry players. Other teams, what Cardiff did is no different to what every team's done against us this year. Even the ones we've beaten, they've worked harder than us. It's just we've had Danjuma pop up with a moment of magic or something. So it's a mystery, but certainly you can see that we don't play anywhere near with the cohesion and spirit of like Cardiff played against us last night.
Games in the Championship are it's like 46 games against Burnley. Various levels of Burnley, but that's what it's like. And if you're not up for that mentally, you're going to lose games, and that's what's happening. And our players just feel they're too good to muck it in with the likes of Burnley A, Burnley B, Burnley C. You can see the set piece goals. They know how to score against us. They know, get crosses in the box, bully them. We'll put them off their game and we'll win. It's not flipping rocket science, and we know it's coming, and we just haven't got the wherewithal to fight it.
What was our marking last night from
that first goal?
Because we've never been a great set piece side, but that's normally under Eddie, normally because we're smaller. And you can see they all do their job. They just get out jumped by someone who's taller. Whereas last night, we lost every single header from a set piece. We didn't win one header, and we didn't even challenge for. I mean, considering Woodgate's an ex-England centre half, you think he would bring a way of marking at set pieces, if nothing else, wouldn't you?
It was awful on that first goal. I mean, if you want to see what a mess we're in, just watch the two goals, because I mean, the first one he's just on his own. And then the penalty, what is Rico doing for the penalty? I mean, absolutely crazy. I saw Cookie was going mad at him. I mean, it was just ridiculous decision-making from Diego. But yeah, the two goals said it all, didn't they? But it almost feels like we said, it's a combination of a lot of things. Like the people at the top and the staff, things like that, seem to be looking at the players and going, what are you doing? You're better than this. And then the players seem to be going, what are you doing above us? And it's just everyone's like, what are we doing? And
Yeah. And everyone's doing a Lewis Cook.
Yeah, everyone's just going. I mean, yeah, he looks. I mean, he was running games for a period, wasn't he, this season? He really looked like he was controlling football matches in that middle of the park. I don't know what's happened since, but he just looks so frustrated. And then next to him, Jefferson Lerma can't pass the ball. I honestly don't know what's happened with them two, because I thought there'd be a real partnership. And there were little times this season where they looked like they could be at this league, but that's gone.
Someone needs to tell Rico as well that if you do a really outrageous stretch in the box, don't get up and do that. You see him, I'll burst out laughing, because the one thing you do, we've all played football, the one thing you do when you know you've given away a penalty is you look like you're doing normal business and then look really shocked when the referee, if you stand up and go like that, it's like, oh no, the whole world's thinking. You're going, I touched him, but I didn't mean it. Well, if you touched him, it's a penalty. So I feel sorry for Diego, because he's such a lovely guy. But he becomes harder and harder to defend every week. And my son still kills me because I got Rico put on his shirt as a joke. And he says, I got to wear this to school.
Oh, that's not good. I mean, if you're someone like Willow that you said about earlier, Neil, the marker was probably about 5 meters away from Rico and he was nowhere near. I mean, we're all feeling crap today, and sometimes I wish I could have the optimism that Willow has. I mean, yesterday, the commentary somehow excusing Dan Juma's lack of control, and I quite like the yin and yang that Chris Temple provides, because he jumped right on top of that, didn't he? Yeah,
I mean, Willow does that. It's like local paper. Everyone criticises local papers because they don't go to hell. They don't go to town on the club like national papers. Well, they can't, because all their stories rely on a relationship. And similarly, Willow plays that role where he's still a Bournemouth through and through. And he, bless him, he always looks for, he always says there'll be one last chance. We're still in this. And you got to love the optimism of him, as opposed to. Was it Dave Merrington who used to do the co-commenting for Saints games? He was their ex-manager, who used to slam them if they played badly. He would come on and slam them. And but Chris Temple does the yin and yang on it, and it is hard, because what you don't want to listen to on a radio commentary, I think, is someone who's as pessimistic as fans are, because the whole thing would then just be awful, wouldn't it? So I do quite like the fact that Willow always tells me there's going to be one late chance. We'll have one more chance, because I'm at home thinking you're right. Jeff doesn't.
When he said that last night, I thought, it never happens, Willow. Never happens.
It was Temple just had enough, didn't he? Like you say, with the Dan Juma one, that was, he'd be put up for all game, and then he just went, Willow. What are you talking about? He just had enough. But
I think he'd had enough when he was banging on about Notting Hill and not Bridget Jones's diary.
Yeah.
Thank you, Barry Norman, I think Chris Temple said.
But they did. They really had to dig it out for that first half, because that's the other sad thing is when it's your own football club. I mean, I remember thinking, I'm only watching this because of 30 years of watching this football club, or however long it is. That's the only reason I'm putting myself through this, because if I'd sat down, if that had been Real Madrid Barcelona and I'd sat down to watch it on a Sunday afternoon, I'd have gone off and done the gardening after watching 25 minutes of that. I mean, it was just abysmal, absolutely abysmal. But that's been a football fan for you, isn't it?
Yeah, problems at all levels within the club. Can a supporters association or supporters trust like Cherries Trust realistically do anything? I mean, I know they've got their kind of twice yearly board to board meetings, but what kind of information would they get out of them? Is this the time where questions actually do need to be put to the board through Cherries Trust, or is it even out of their control to even get some information out of it? What's going on?
I don't know. Obviously, I don't know how they work and things like that. But whether they can see if we can. Obviously, it's difficult at the moment as well, because obviously no fans are in the stadium and things like that. And obviously, we've had fans forums and things like that in the past. I don't know if there's any way you can get some sort of. You never hearing from your chief exec, for example. But you don't really hear from your chief exec a lot at any football club, to be fair. But you seem to hear a lot from Jeff Mostyn when we go away to Chelsea and win. Do you know what I mean? It's and then he goes a bit quiet. But I don't know if there can be anything in terms of just getting a bit of transparency and between the fans and, getting that connection back, because it seems so, as I said earlier, I still feel so far removed from the kind of this group and things at the moment. But yeah, I don't know in terms of, Cherry's Trust, for example, and their role. I don't know what kind of relationships or connections they can build there, especially in this time. I'm honestly not sure.
I think in any business, when it's this bad, you need a series of draw the line conversations with various groups. And, that might work, but probably not. We probably need to just, stagger through to the end of the season and do a big reset in the close season.
Yeah. Chief execs don't sack themselves. So I think if you all reflect on your own experiences at work, they tend to shuffle and shuffle and shuffle. Turkeys don't vote for Christmas, do they? So the issue that we've got is a tough one to resolve unless Max holds the key to it, because obviously at the end of the day, Max is watching whatever investment he's got disappearing at a rate of knots, and he can either stick or twist. If he chooses to stick or twist, I think sooner or later he's got to realise that he hasn't got the right people making decisions at the club, and he's too far removed from it. So he holds the key to it. But you would say on the surface of it, he doesn't seem that bothered, because I can't believe he allowed the appointment of Woodgate to go through. So if he was that bothered, I don't think he would. I think he'd have said, no, you hold firm and you find me someone within the next fortnight that's better.
It seems that certain questions need to be answered. I mean, I've got no idea what's going to happen next season at this point in time, and I think it would be good to have some kind of feedback from the board, but whether we'll hear it or not directly or through Cherry's Trust, no idea. But it's all a horrible situation, and you know what? I had this idea planned that we could have this aftermath chat to make ourselves feel better, but I'm actually not sure I do, and the feeling is going to roll on, I'm sure, until Saturday. Only the lads on the pitch will be able to improve how we're feeling, and if we can get something, I mean, I'd be ecstatic with a draw at this rate. But anyway, conversation.
Will any of our players work as hard as Dan Gosling on Saturday? That is the question.
Well, you know what? He started for Watford last night, so I'm kind of hoping that means he won't start on Saturday. That's my only little bit of solace, as they beat Blackburn last night. Maybe he won't start the weekend. If he did, I'm sure he'd show a lot of our players up.
I think we all are expressing views that the wide variety of people in our fan base, but I think a lot of them would agree with what we're saying. I hope that the club or people from the club watch this to just get a sense of what the fans are feeling and sort it out. Just whoever's going to take control in the club, at management level, at leadership level, just sort it out.
I wonder what they'd do differently if they went back and had that them conversations with Eddie Howe for a week. I wonder if they'd do everything in their power to keep that man at this football club. Because that seems like the maddest thing, doesn't it? Allowing him to go, it seems we all knew it to a degree, but even more evident now. And I'm sure if hindsight's a wonderful thing, I'm sure they'd go back and do everything to not let him out of that door.
Like Eddie Mitchell said.
Yeah, like Eddie Mitchell said. Well, there we are. That is the aftermath. Let us know what you think in the comments about our current situation. Obviously, we're all looking forward, maybe not, to Watford on Saturday, which is live on Sky. Coming up on this channel, we're going to have Mr. Tiggs chatting about the week's news. Of course, they'll be covering the appointments of Joe Jordan and Gary O'Neill, plus a look forward to said game against the Hornets on Saturday. Until then, from all the team, see you in the next one.